Most intentional Christian communities fail, not most of the poorly planned ones. Not most of the ones started by people with bad intentions or weak faith, most of them, the passionate ones. The ones started by people who loved God deeply, who prayed over the vision, who gave everything they had to see it become real. Most of them fail. And the reason is almost never what people think it is. This video is going to walk through every major reason communities collapse, not theoretically, from the inside. From someone who has stood in the ruins of one he helped build with his own hands. And at the end, there is one principle. A single, simple, devastatingly difficult principle that prevents all of it. Stay with this video. Because if you are building something or thinking about building something, what is in the next 20 minutes could save you years. There is a particular kind of grief that comes from standing in the ruins of a dream you poured everything into. It is not the grief of failure in the conventional sense. It is something heavier. Because the dream was not selfish. It was good. The people involved were not bad. They were sincere. The vision was not misguided. It was biblical. And it still fell apart. The overgrown garden path where children used to run. The fire pit where 30 people used to gather, now cold and surrounded by weeds. The community that was supposed to reflect heaven that in the end felt like something else entirely. This is not a hypothetical. This is a memory. And the question that memory demands is not whether this is possible. The early church proved it is possible. The question is why it keeps failing. And more importantly, what the ones that last are doing differently. Subscribe now if this channel is new to you. This is Christian Villages, and this is the conversation most people building community are not willing to have. The first reason Christian communities fail is the most seductive, and it almost always happens in the very first conversation. A group of believers catches the vision. The dream is alive. The energy is real. And then someone opens a laptop and pulls up a real estate listing. And within 24 hours, the whole group is on Google Earth, picking out which corner of a 40-acre property their house will sit on. This is the seduction of the soil. And it has killed more Christian communities than conflict, more than financial pressure, more than theological disagreement combined. Here is what happens when you lead with land. You are immediately under pressure from logistics that have nothing to do with spiritual alignment. Closing dates, down payments, zoning laws, mortgage payments. Suddenly you need to fill spots to make payments. And when you need to fill spots, you start evaluating people based on their financial contribution rather than the alignment of their spirit. Conversations that should have been about vision and values become conversations about per-acre costs and septic system designs. The land becomes a demanding idol. You cannot mortgage your way into unity. You cannot zone for love. The sequence is non-negotiable. People first, always. The second reason communities fracture is the avoidance of structure, and it is almost always dressed up as a spiritual virtue. The phrases sound like faith. We do not need rules. We have the Holy Spirit. These sentiments feel beautiful. They are also a recipe for slow, certain disaster. What the avoidance of structure actually creates is not freedom. It is a vacuum. And into that vacuum rushes assumption, unmet expectation, and eventually resentment. The community that was supposed to be a place of transparency is now full of grievances whispered in kitchens rather than addressed at the table. Without structure, every decision is conflict. Structure is not the enemy of the spirit. It is the channel through which the spirit can flow with order and peace. Clear agreements are the architecture that allows trust to be built. The third reason is the most painful. A shared dream is not the same as shared alignment. This is the lesson that costs the most to learn. In the early days, there is a desperation for a yes. The group feels fragile. The bar gets lowered. They love Jesus. That is enough. It is actually spiritual cowardice. One family loves interdependence. The other loves independent homesteading. In practice, they are in constant collision. Every meal feels like an intrusion to one and a gift to the other. The work of discernment on the front end is not judgmentalism. It is love. It is protecting good people from a situation that is wrong for them. The courage to say, "Not yet," is kingdom-aligned. The fourth reason communities fall apart is a leadership failure. Not the leader who is too controlling, but the leader who is not willing to lead. The visionary becomes the janitor, the mediator, the emotional sponge. They confuse serving the people with serving the whims of the people. and it destroys them. Without clear leadership, it is a community of the loudest voices, and the loudest voices are rarely the wisest. Ambiguity is where confusion thrives and resentment accumulates. The fifth reason is the subtlest. Communities fail because they try to build a kingdom culture while remaining deeply indebted to the patterns of Babylon. They want shared economy but retain a death grip on personal assets. They desire fellowship but maintain a consumer mindset. You cannot build a kingdom community on Babylon's values. The communities that survive are the ones that make the inside-out shift. Not just external structures, but internal assumptions about ownership and privacy. Laying down your life for your brothers. 5 reasons. They look like 5 different problems. They are all the same problem. They are all consequences of violating one principle. Who you build with matters more than what you build. What alignment actually requires is finding the specific people whose theology and values match yours. Finding those people is slow. Proving that alignment is slower. Resisting the rush is hard. But when you stand on land with a handful of people who have been tested, everything changes. You are no longer managing misalignment. You are building momentum. Every meal is a celebration. Most communities fail, but not because the dream is wrong, because the sequence is wrong. Christian villages exist to walk with people who are ready to do it the right way, not the fast way. Visit christianvillages.com today. The path is there. The guidance is there. This is not extreme. We were meant to live this way. Subscribe now.